Hey everybody, this is Panfurware LLC, and let that sink in with Mia Zeidler. Okay, welcome to Let That Sink In. My name is Eric Zeidler. I am a sync licensing agent for Panfurware LLC. I take the repertoire, the library of music that we have with our artists, and I find placements for them, whether it's through music supervisors, whether it's through producers, etc., whether it's ads, film, television, video games, any visual form, media, you name it. I help find a place, a home for the music that we have. Anthony?
Yes, sure. Yes, sure. Let's find a quieter place here. And that's better. Hey, Anthony Ferrier here, everybody, owner of Panfurware LLC Music Publishing and Sync. Thanks for joining us. We pivoted our IT consulting company about 3-4 years ago and wanted to merge tech with music. And we signed Eric on board and along with some others to help us. And we are having fun. I'm done talking.
All right, and the guest of the evening, well, actually, guest of the day. We usually do this in the evenings, but the guest of today is Mia. Welcome.
Thanks. Yeah. Should I do a brief intro?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead and just introduce yourself.
Cool. Yeah, my name's Mia Zeidler. I'm currently based in Los Angeles, working mostly in music clearance and licensing, but have been recently wearing a music creative hat at MasterClass. But yeah, I am excited to speak with you guys today.
We're excited to speak with you. Yeah, so kind of walk us through the beginning. Like, how did this all start? Walk us through kind of your upbringings with music and like the journey that took you from childhood with music, etc., to where you are now.
Sure. Yeah. I didn't know I was gonna go into a career in music until I was in college. I had played piano for 6 years when I was younger, and I played a few other instruments for a year here and there, but it never really stuck with me. And then I was just more interested in the film side. I was skateboarding with some friends locally in Los Angeles and started to film us skateboarding, and I would then edit the videos and put in music, and I just kind of knew film school or film major was what I was heading towards, and so I ended up applying to a few colleges under the film departments, and I knew I wanted a specialization, and I had never really thought about music, but I was just so interested in the playlists I was making, and um, yeah, I just wanted to find an environment where I could be around music all the time, and I was able to do that. I eventually found my way to music supervision and kind of just dove into that. Took me a while to get there, but by the the fourth year of college, I had gotten an internship with a music supervisor, so that was kind of my entry into it all. But up until that point, I was working in music, doing internships with booking agencies, and just taking kind of whatever opportunities came my way. So yeah.
Awesome. And as much as you can, kind of like go into because I know there's certain things, obviously, NDA, etc. You can't talk about. But tell us about like what different companies or recent projects that you are available to talk about, of course.
Yeah, I can kind of tell you my pathway. So I started in I started working under a few music supervisors, doing all of the Tyler Perry productions, and I worked under Joel C. High and Sammy Posner for 6 months as their music assistant, working on those productions. And that was a really great experience. And then I was looking for more full-time work, and I ended up landing, well, I should back up a little bit. Before I had ended with Joel and Sammy, I was interested in music editorial. So I kind of poked my head around there a bit, and I ended up landing a 7-month job with a music editor. And that was a really great experience where I just did a lot of cue sheets and um, did a ton of spotting sessions and really dove into the world of a music editor, which has really helped me in my cue sheet world. But I worked for them for 7 months, and then I also just knew around June of 2021 that I was looking for more full-time work. And so I ended up looking into a few full-time jobs and um, landed myself at MasterClass and started working and was kind of building up a music creative team. And it was me and my manager, and we were doing it together, and it was a great experience. I've been doing music searches and working on over 30 classes. But yeah, other than that, I've had the experience to work on a variety of projects on the side, including projects with electronic arts. I ended up working with Joel and Sammy again for another 6 months on FIFA and NHL as well. So that was a great experience. And now FIFA 22 is up for an award with the Guild, so that's exciting. And yeah, I've done a lot in the past year and a half, so it's a lot to try to compact into a few sentences. So I apologize for the all over the place, but I kind of just take any opportunity that comes to me. And I've had the ability to do cue sheets for projects like a Disney film I did recently and a Netflix series. So it really has given me a variety of knowledge in different cue sheet systems. And I've kind of transitioned my work mentality to trying to make everybody's workflow easier. Um, but yeah, I should be starting a new job very shortly. I actually will be leaving MasterClass, so I don't know that I want to talk about the job so much today since I haven't started it yet, but I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, no, no worries at all. Yeah, please only talk about what you're comfortable talking about. No, that's amazing, and congratulations to you. Like yeah, I love hearing your story, and today is about you. And I think that your story is like super inspiring, especially for somebody like me. Do you ever get that? Do you ever get that moment of where you kind of have to pinch yourself, where you're kind of just like, is this? You have to like double check your reality and make sure that this is really happening. Do you ever have those kind of like those moments where you're like, wow, am I really? I'm wow.
With this new job, yeah, I definitely had that moment. Um, I'm really looking forward to it, and I think that it really kind of shows the skills I've picked up over the years really well. And I think that it'll be the right fit for me. But um, I acknowledged the amount of work I put in each job, and I was a really hard worker throughout all of it. So definitely, I I was having moments where I worked on projects that like were a pinch myself moment, and I was getting to see seasons before they aired, and that was super exciting for me. Just being in that post experience of going through each episode. But um, yeah, I've been working so hard that sometimes it's hard to really sit back and like think about everything. So this new job was kind of the first time I've done that in a while, and it's been nice. I worked a lot freelance this past year, and I worked full time at MasterClass, and I'm gonna go completely in house next. So I'm looking forward to it.
That's so awesome. Do you have any? Oh, sorry, Anthony. Go ahead. I saw you on mic.
Oh, no worries. I just want to say, yeah, man, that's super cool. The organic path sometimes is the best path. And it seems like you picked up a lot of good skills that's, not only vertical for what you do, but also horizontal so that you can go to different positions, different jobs and excel. And I'm really excited and glad to hear, in the back channel, where you're going to next, but you're able to pull everything that you learned, for this new adventure. And it's going to be really exciting for you. I'm happy for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Sorry, I couldn't find me on mute. But I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a wild journey, but I'm pretty confident that if you just work hard and you're really passionate about it, it does work out. But yeah, the organic path is the way to go. I mean, I networked like crazy, so that's a huge component of it. I'm pretty big on having a network. I think it gets you really far. But yeah, it's been a really great time, just at least to getting to this point in my career so far.
Yeah, and what would you say has been the most fun or enjoyable moment? And the contrast of that, what do you think has been the most challenging moment that you've experienced so far?
I think just learning not to overwork yourself. I work a lot, so I think like just being comfortable with doing like one job versus like seven. But when I say one job, I don't mean that one job, but just having one thing, because within each job there's, seven shows or whatever there is. So it's a lot to take in when you're doing so much. And so I think just being more comfortable with like taking care of yourself and um, caring for yourself is kind of, yeah, probably the biggest challenge. But I've kind of mastered it. I have been going to the gym and taking care of myself, and I feel like it's been really helping. But work is, I don't see it as a challenge. I really like all the challenges that it presents. So I don't know. I don't really have a big challenge that I've faced yet in in my work, other than figuring out how to make people's lives easier. That can be a big challenge sometimes.
I like that. So um, maybe part of the challenge can be like finding your tempo, so to speak, finding that comfort zone, that rhythm, to where you're not overdoing it, but at the same time you're doing enough to where you feel like satisfied with with how much you're accomplishing, and at the rate you are.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, finding my tempo. I mean, I'm really good at doing the job. I think for me, I just overwork myself. That's kind of the biggest challenge I face is just figuring out how to find that time to make for yourself.
Yeah, and that's really important. Like in any kind of in any I mean any job, it's important to take time for yourself. And I think I think at least that ever since the pandemic, when people there's been this like mind shift of going towards recognizing the importance of mental health, and people learning how to take a break basically, and people learning how to breathe. Yeah, how important do you think it is to to be aware of and to assess mental health, no matter what it is you do, whether you're a musician, whether you're a music supervisor, whether you're a producer, whatever.
Yeah, I think I mean, it's important to exercise every day. It's good to keep moving. Like, your body is made to move, and we spend a lot of time behind the screens. So it's important to just take a little break, even if it's just for 5 minutes, just to step away. But yeah, I try to work out every day, which has been really helpful. You just really have to carve the time out. It can be 15 minutes though.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's very important. Like and I think physical as well as mental is both, like they can kind of fuel each other. They can, when you start working your body out, you feel better mentally, is almost like a side effect. Even it doesn't have to be much. You don't have to turn into like a gym rat, but like even just moving a little bit around a day, can help your mental process and help you think clearer, a thousandfold.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so kind of shifting gears a little bit. So when it comes to, when it comes to music, in regards to musicians and, when they are actually trying to get their music placed, etc., what do you think are, the most important things for a musician to keep in mind when they're going for placement, when they're trying to actually, get everything together and prepare for getting their music placed?
Sorry, I just got a phone call and I didn't want to decline it, so I don't think I heard your question.
Oh yeah, no
My
worries at all.
apologies.
What going in regards to musicians and placement? What do you think are kind of some of the most important aspects when a musician is preparing to try and get their music placed? What do you think are some of the most important aspects that any musician should keep in mind when preparing their music for licensing and placement?
Just from my experience, I think finding somebody you're comfortable with representing your music is probably the best thing you can do. Everything I've done, I use music libraries and different licensors, so I always go to somebody to get it's really hard to work with people on a one by one basis unless they're a composer who has already worked within um, this field. But there are those placements that you do have a few friends that send you some things and them. But I do think just having instrumentals and stems available is really helpful, and then sending those links via Disco is really easy way to do it for people. um, but yeah, other than that, maybe trying to find somebody who can like help get your music out there. If licensing is what you're for TV and film is what you're looking towards, because sometimes like you get lucky moments of finding people who are working on a show and just need some music, but those are kind of diamonds in the rough. So it's important to have somebody who's constantly like advocating for you. Um, I think that's the most helpful, just seeing it at who we've resourced from.
Thank you for that. That's some really really good information. And you kind of touched or alluded on something slightly that I wanted to kind of go on, because I believe you've worked a little bit in both of these. But what do you have a preference in regards to placing music versus getting work for hire composition, for a TV show, for a film? What are kind of some of the benefits, and what are some of the drawbacks, when you're doing either placed songs or synced songs or original music?
Um, Everything I've worked on has kind of done both, honestly. So I think they go hand in hand. I don't know that I prefer one or the other. I like doing both of them. Um, so I can't really. There's just benefits to both. I mean, working with a composer is great. You can do things from scratch and really play with the director's vision and really get to where you want to be because you have the revision process as well. And then the licensing, like, there's only certain things you can do to change the track. You can take the stems and break them apart and see if there's something you can remove that you don't like, or it just might not hit it. So I feel like the composer world is easier, but it's more cost. So it is important to look at the budget and evaluate what's best. I think that's the most important thing is like everything goes back to the budget. But you can find people on both ends that are affordable. I think it's just what is required. If they're really specific about what they need musically, then sometimes it's better to go the composer route if they have the time. But if it's a rushed schedule and you need to get things cleared, the music library might be the way to go. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. I like both, and I've really enjoyed all the people I've worked with till this point on both ends. So yeah.
It's such a good answer. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's and when it comes to, because as a music supervisor, anybody in that kind of position, you have to. I imagine you also have to have really good communication skills and relationship building skills, because you have to be able to talk to the producer, to the director, to the showrunner, and go back and forth. And especially if you're working with a composer, you have to go back and forth with the composer as well. And with that being said, would you agree that there is kind of an element of even customer service or interpersonal skills that you have to have for a role like that?
I think just being able to work with the director's vision, and just really follow what they want. That's kind of the best thing you can do. I think just being open-minded is a huge thing. And yeah, it's really important to identify what the team is looking for and not just like what you're looking for, but also how feasible it's going to be to license the material, and how much it's going to cost. There's a lot of traits that you can pick up along the way. I mean, I worked in food service in the beginning doing cashier positions, so I feel like money was kind of something I was always around, but now monitoring budgets and things like that is something I do on a regular. So I think it's important to kind of know how to do that, know how to do audits, look back on amounts that have been made and see what could have been done to change different factors and how you could have maybe saved some money. But yeah, I I definitely think that there's a lot of transferable skills that you learn just growing up, just being a person, knowing how to email people. Communication is key, is what will end on for that note.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree 100%. And something else you said that it was really struck with me was that it's your purpose as a music supervisor is to serve the needs of the director, of the showrunner. And it's actually kind of funny because I was recently talking to actually a fantastic music supervisor that anybody listening should go check out, DJ Burt Blackerack. He actually said to me like the same thing, like, hey, always keep in mind when you're coming up in music supervision, your purpose is to aid and assist and serve the vision of the director, of the showrunner, of the producer, and you're helping them, you're filling in those gaps and they're trying to complete with whatever project that they're doing. So that was really awesome that you kind of said that after I just recently had a talk with him as well. So that's really cool. I get my next. I guess the one other thing I was kind of thinking about was how do you think the kind of move to remote in the past 2 years has affected the sync world and or music supervision world, etc.? How do you think that remote and everybody going online has affected this area of the industry?
The key thing is people just adapting to new technology and new ways of doing the things that they did in person online. There's many tools that I feel like w- I've used during my time, Frankie and Evercast and Zoom and Slack, a lot of different tools for communicating, and that's been great to see everybody kind of adapt to it. And I think the biggest thing that's been missed is going on set. obviously for people if they need to be there for on-screen visuals. Um, it's it's important to be in the moment and be present, and people have had to view that from screens rather than be in person. So I think we're finally getting back to a place where people are doing that again and going back to set. Um, but yeah, it's definitely changed a lot. But for the licensing component, I feel like most things are handled via email, so it doesn't change much. I do think that it changes people's lives to not work in person, and there's not as many work events and concerts were canceled. So like the the ability to get tickets through licensors that we work with was just not there. So there wasn't that social aspect of meeting people at a concert and having that environment. So I do think there were certain things that were taken away, but I do think it showed that we can adapt pretty easily to an online environment. And while I think location is important, and um, I definitely think being in LA is an important thing just because of the flexibility it allows with what jobs you can take on. I do think that like the world is heading to a place where some companies will just operate on being online forever. But at least from what I've been seeing, the major studios I think will always want to be in person just due to the environment of, productions always happening and there's always a lot going on. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Anthony. Go ahead.
No problem. Thank you, Mia, for that. In regards to discovery, I get questions like that sometimes. How do you discover new music? In today's current um, thing, how do you just how do you or your coworkers discover music that's needed for your projects?
I discover music on my own just via Spotify and other not streamers, but other Apple Music and just platforms that do kind of the discover weeklies or just different playlists that I haven't explored yet. So that's a good way that I find new music I haven't listened to before, and I build out my own playlist and kind of just keep tab of things I like. But I always try to listen to new music on a weekly, so it's a challenge trying to not repeat your favorite songs over and over. But as far as it goes for like projects, it mostly just comes from established relationships that you get over time, whether it's working with them on a project prior or somebody mentions them. Um, it typically ends up being that we go to people that we've worked with prior, but it can kind of come all ways. I mean, it depends on in the moment what we're seeking. Sometimes we need something really recognizable, so it's just impossible to get any new music in, and that's somewhat been the case with most of the projects I've worked on. But for finding kind of the unique pieces, I've seen people go to libraries a lot. So that's kind of that's how I discover new music. I mean, I've discovered so many people through all the libraries I've worked with this past year. So that's been awesome to see that. And I feel like in future projects, I'll remember some of them and consider going back. So, yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Because as you and Eric had talked about earlier, um, it's it's hard to figure out, and there's no magic key, magic ticket, golden ticket to it. Basically, sometimes I like how you mentioned that the instrumentals and the stems sometimes can fit in situations where you would normally have a composer. It depends on the budget and the situation. Because, from our side of the in the audience watching a movie, we say, wow, that song was made perfectly for that scene. But, the scene could have been made perfectly for the song, so it's kind of cool that you said sometimes even just having stems that might work in a situation as opposed to the whole song, or even sometimes the whole song can be used. But having those parts allows a songwriter to be more available to that situation as opposed to just having the full song and that's it. So thank you for that tip.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm loving this interview so far. So much good information, being you know, pushed out, and this is, I, it's something to where, like, in conversations like these, it's, even though I think of myself as somebody who knows quite a bit about this kind of stuff, I'm always learning something new. I always feel like no matter what, whoever I talk to, I'm always learning, at least something new. I always try to walk away from a conversation with at least one new tidbit of information, and I think that's really important to have, and it's really important to have that open mindset so you can allow yourself to have to be able to walk away with new information. But let's see. So the next actually the next question I was kind of going back because you started talking about how you went into music. I kind of want to go off of that in a weird way. I want to ask you, what would you be doing if it wasn't music supervision, if it wasn't anything like this? Take yourself out of the music industry entirely. Where would you see yourself?
Um, well, prior to going to college, I was looking into pre-med. So I don't know. I didn't want to do that. But that was kind of where I was heading, becoming a doctor or something. But had I gone into the film industry and not done music, I probably would have become an editor. Or I was doing sound design for a long time. I like sound designing. That's what I was initially trying to do when I got out of school. Um, but it's a little bit hard to get into the union. So music clearance was just something that I ended up starting to do a lot more, and I liked the licensing aspects, and kind of just all fell into my lap at the right time. But yeah, maybe sound design or editorial. You can always go back though. I've heard that you can always jump around. I mean, I don't see myself doing that, but just for anybody out there who wants to explore other things.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And like, if you're growing unhappy with where you are, you can always go back to editing if that's just, if that fulfills you more. You should always be able to go back, because I don't think anybody should ever be somewhere where they're not truly happy, because just for the the reasons of mental health and being happy with yourself, but also you are not going to be doing your best work if you aren't happy where you are. You're just you're not, like, it's, if you can find a place where you are getting out of bed, ready to, like, conquer their day every single day, and you're just madly in love with what you do, you're going to be the best, doing the best work that you can possibly be doing. You're going to be hitting it with 110% every day, day after day, as opposed to if you're just okay with what you're doing. It can vary 75% one day, 50% another, maybe 80 another. But if you actually try to stick with where your heart truly is and where your soul really shines, then, even from a business perspective, it makes a lot more sense, because you're going to be, your output is going to be increased 100-fold.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's important to like where you work. It's a useful thing for sure.
Yeah, and you've mentioned a couple times, about editing, about admin work, which is funny because from a lot of different music supervisors, I hear that their least favorite part of it is admin work. They really don't like doing, like, the metadata entry, filling out cue sheets, scheduling things, and sending out the license, the sync contracts, etc. Um, is that kind of the opposite for you? Are you somebody who really enjoys the admin work, like, even more so than the creative side, or is it kind of mixed, or?
I'd say I'm more administrative sided. Um, yeah, I like the creative side. It definitely is exciting and fun. Um, but I'm pretty good at the administrative work, so I just enjoy it. Um, but yeah, I've always been like one who really likes to lead and really organized and very into charts. So it works pretty well for me. But the creative side is fun. I really enjoyed all the work I've done at MasterClass, and um, all the work I did with that music editor was really great. And the creative side is really great. So if you can find a middle ground with all of it, that sounds awesome. Um, my next role, I'll be focusing more on the licensing side, but I'm just as excited. I don't think I get kind of in my head about like you have to do one or the other. But I do think that like it's good to commit to one and really learn about it and grow, and stay there for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, you know, because I think it's important to be flexible. I think it's important to have a few cards up your sleeve and a few different skill sets. But I think if you spread yourself too thin, too far, then you will fill out that adage of jack of all trades but master of none. And so it's I think that's actually another important point is kind of finding that balance of taking on as many skills as you can so that you can be versatile, but also so that you're not spreading yourself too thin and you can actually take time with one or a couple of them and really actually get good at them, and make yourself presentable with those skills to somebody who may be looking to hire somebody with those skills. It requires a bit of balance, I would think.
Yeah. I mean, you can't do the creative without knowing how the clearance and licensing process works. So definitely are important to dive into.
Yeah, and I think you touched on it a little bit, but is there something in particular that you like about the admin side? Is it like the because I always get a fulfillment out of it. I always feel really good when I can look at like the cue sheet and everything's filled out. It's like almost a borderline OCD kind of thing where it's kind of just like everything's filled out. It's satisfying. What's the case with you and admin work? Is it what's kind of what do you like about it so much? Yeah.
I think I like the variety. It's just a lot of different types of work. You can handle a higher volume, whereas the creative, you really have to dedicate yourself to like making the director feel seen and heard, and like really could take a lot longer than you anticipate. But I think I mean, I really do like both. I think I just like the administrative part because it's where you deal with paying the composers and where you deal with the people who own the music, and um, yeah, it's kind of like the bread and butter of the music supervision world, I would say. Like you are really digging for the people who made that song and identifying and even maybe getting to talk to them. And it's a great experience when you work really hard on a song and are able to finally get all the paperwork wrapped up. And um, it's a big feat. I think that there's a lot of creativity also behind the administrative side. I don't know that you just have to be creative in a creative position. I think you can be creative in anything. And so I think that's what a lot of people tend to forget. Um, but yeah, I like the admin work.
Well said. Well said. And what is you know, as far as you've come, kind of looking at now, but also looking at the beginnings of this whole journey. What is something that you wish you knew, like when you first started, that you know now?
I mean, like for anybody who like is trying to get in, it's like network is key. That's probably the most important thing I can pass on is like you can be a really hard worker and you can have a lot of great experience and um, it's good to have that, but it's also important to have people who will back you up and say that that's true. And it's also great for people to have mentors. Like the whole experience is great, and your mentors will become the people who vouch for you. So um, I think networking and spending your time networking, not just with music supervisors, but networking with people all throughout lines of production and post so that you can really grasp the full understanding of how the film and TV side for music works. Editors, sound designers, like everybody has their own input. So I definitely think that's an important thing that I didn't know until I was about to graduate, and then did a. I'm very grateful I realized it and just changed it up, and I built my own network in a matter of half a year or so. So yeah.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. And to kind of add on to it, kind of a little bit from what I've experienced is that the editors and the assist if you want to get in with the music supervisors, um, get close with the get close with the editor and get close with the assistant. That at least that's what I've heard. I don't know if you have any added additives for that, but get close to the editor and get close to the music supervisor's assistant if you want to get in with the music supervisor at some point. Kind of establishing those offhand connections. But Anthony, did you have anything else you wanted to ask or any questions for Mia?
No, I'm just soaking it all in. I really appreciate it, Mia. I know it's actually kind of early over there. It's like 12 o'clock in the afternoon in LA. And you probably already had a busy day. You probably have another half of a busy day happening. So I'm just sitting out here in the sun over in Philly, and I'm enjoying the good information, the good people talking, and the good air. So keep going, Eric.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. Yeah, it's that's kind of my vibe for today as well. Is I'm kind of just absorbing everything. Mia, you're such a good friend and you're such a good like wealth of information. It's always, such a pleasure to be talking to you. That actually is because I believe you mentioned you have to go at 1 o'clock your time, 4 o'clock our time.
Yeah. I think I might have to head out shortly.
Okay. Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem at all. If there, I mean, I'm gonna open it up to see if anybody else has any questions. In the room. If Anna, welcome Feline, welcome Jay. If any of you guys had any questions for me, feel free to raise your hand. I'll give you a moment to do so. While we have a few moments left. But if nobody else has any questions, yeah. Yeah, I think it looks like everybody's pretty good with the information. So thank you, Mia, for this. Thank you for coming up for coming on here and being able to answer the questions that we have and being able to share your insights and your kind of your backstory. Once again, it's always such a pleasure to talk to you, and anytime we talk, it's always a wealth of information, and it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, the same here. I really enjoyed talking to you both. Thanks for having me.